Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Hannah Young. Hannah is a former salesperson, a marketer, a podcaster, a current freelancer, and wears few different hats. And I know she's got a really interesting background and is doing some quite exciting things at the moment in the world of content creation, all that kind of good stuff. So I'm looking forward to catching up with her, see what she's been up to most recently, find out a bit more about her journey and what sort of led her to where she is today, and also see what the future holds for her. So Hannah, with that introduction, welcome to the show. How are you getting on?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Joe. Might as well just put content creator in there. Maybe I'll be a vlogger soon. I don't know. There's a lot of things I feel like I'm doing now, but yeah, really excited to be here and just share a bit of what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, like
Hmm.
just a lot of that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let's. I'd like to start a little bit in the
Mhm.
present.
Yeah.
The recent sort of news, if you like, in terms of what you've been up to. You've launched your own sort of venture, your own
hmm
freelancing piece, Create by Hand. What can you sort of tell me about that? How did that also come about, and what is it you're doing in that particular role?
Yeah, so I still don't know what it is, but
Okay.
I kind of just started it because it's funny because I kind of just randomly chose a name. I'm like, what's something cool and fun, and just created a logo, slapped it on it. And I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to do right now. But no, it actually started when I guess a couple of months ago, I was let go of a company and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I mean, I did apply for some roles, but, I didn't end up getting them. And I kind of went on this sabbatical of what do I actually really want to do? I have marketing experience, I have sales experience, but what do I really want to do in my future role? And I just felt like, I felt like the market was a bit tough also for I don't know, like roles at the moment, especially in tech. And I was like, look, it's almost towards the end of the year. What can I do currently to, I guess, utilize my skills? And I also was like, oh, I really miss marketing a lot because I do have marketing background. And it kind of just started from there. And I kind of like created a job when I had no job for
Yeah.
myself. Um, and I guess that's more of my hustle mentality. I mean, I did take a bit of a break. I went traveling and all that stuff, but I still wanted to keep busy. So that whole freelancing business I kind of started and it's still going. I'm still working on it, building on it. I kind of have a knack of like building presentations or like whether it's sales decks or marketing presentations and just building them for like I started building them for friends, helping them out, just doing some content creation, stuff like that. So I definitely want to help, individuals and tech startups. I think that's, I've worked in tech startups for the past 5 years, and that's really
Yeah.
one thing that I like, I still love and love being around, especially the community. So that's kind of how it like, yeah, really started. Um, yeah.
And how's it been going? Like, how have you been helping companies? Like, how has it sort of been received with the people that you've been helping, the work you've been doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still going. I think it's been good. I've been getting really good feedback. And
Yeah.
to be honest, I had a friend who I've been helping and still helping that actually pushed me into this direction because I feel like for me, I have a bit of a imposter syndrome of, can I really do this? Like, I don't think I'm even qualified or equipped enough.
Mhm.
But I think you're always your biggest critic. And I think for me, I just needed a bit of encouragement and push, and people were giving me really great feedback. And I know the work that I've been doing, the projects that I've been working on have been good. So I think I just needed to like back myself a little bit. And right now, I would say, honestly, it's not even a full time thing yet.
Yeah.
Would I love it to be a full time thing? I think definitely in the future. I think for me right now, I still have been working on other passion projects that I still want to continue. But yeah, I think I just thought, hey, I'm going to go slow and steady and just build on it. And I started this and I'm going to run with it. Yes. So
Yeah,
it's
gotcha.
still going. That's all I can say.
And you mentioned it's like the presentation decks, and is it
Mm.
also helping companies with their own, like creating their own content and the strategy around that?
Yeah, so I definitely have been more of like I guess, a consultant in a way of
Yeah.
helping, yeah, with more of like what I think would be good for your business in terms of like
Okay.
the creation side, because I feel like for the past years I've been doing content creation and just, yeah, I would love, and I have been helping companies just more on the ideas side.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
As in, like, here's what I think would work. Here's maybe not so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Just that
Basically,
sort of consulting
yeah,
piece.
yeah. I guess you could say it's a bit of a consultancy too,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't really know what to call it, but maybe a little bit of everything. But it could change later on. In the
Yeah.
future, it might not just be presentation days. It could be helping smaller businesses do the
Yeah.
social media work or digital marketing. Um, yeah, something
Well,
like that.
it's still, it sounds
Mm,
like it's still early days, and you're not going to have it all
yeah,
figured out, right? It's going to be an evolving process for sure. You mentioned
yeah.
about, it took a bit of sort of guts to launch it and do your own thing, and
Mm,
need a bit of a push to overcome that imposter syndrome slightly. It's quite a big thing,
mm.
like to sort of go out on your own a little bit, like you have, and put yourself out there. How did you sort of get over that? That sort of fear. Would you say?
Yeah, I think that's a tough one, because I think for me throughout my whole, I guess, career, like I felt that whether I was working in sales, whether working in marketing, I've always kind of felt that, and I feel like for me, I just had to really, kind of hone in I'm at this point for a reason. I have people saying to me, or like my network or other, peers saying, you should do this. This is what you're great at. And I think I've chatted to a lot of like friends, peers who said the exact same thing. And it was more just trying to conquer the whole, I only think that way type of thing. So yeah, I think it's really more like a mental shift
Mm,
where I just had to get out of, hey, I only think this way. But yeah, I don't know, just having that confidence in yourself, really.
yeah.
I don't really know how to like describe it in a way, but it's when you finally have that mental shift, it's kind of like, oh, okay, I can actually do this.
Mm,
And also, I wasn't doing anything else. I didn't have a job, so I was like, I have nothing to lose
yeah.
at this point. If it fails, it fails. If it goes big, then I'm making money. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think with that, like, confidence piece about doing
Mm,
something kind of like you have, it's about sort of looking at the sort of stacks of evidence that you've built in the past that you sort of can do something. So it's always a little bit easier when you have sort of done something before, or like you have.
mm,
Where I'm going with that is, like, you probably felt that when you first got into sales. Like, I'm not a salesperson. I've never worked in sales before. I can't do this. And then you did. You went and did it. And same with marketing, right? You're not
exactly.
you're
Yeah.
not a marketer until you did it, or a podcast. You're not a podcaster until you are. And I think
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
just about, like, building that stacks of evidence in your sort of past that, yeah, I've done it before. So when you do go to take on something new, like you have, it's like, well, I was never a salesperson before until I was. So, like, why can't I now do this? That's the sort of advice I always give someone who's looking to sort of do something new.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that resonates.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I would say the exact same thing. I think for me, I have relevant skills in my past, whether it's, with sales and marketing. I think for me, why I really love, creating these, presentations deck is that I purely enjoy it. I
Yeah,
love creating and just being creative. And I think leading your own projects and just having working in a sense for yourself, there's a lot of joy in that. There's a lot of stress in that too, but
yeah,
there's a lot of joy. Just because you're on your own schedule, you have more, I guess, flexibility in a way. And do
mm.
I mean, I still want to, find a role that I truly love, for more exposure and experience, in the new year. But for now, this is kind of what I'm, yeah, be working on. Yeah.
And that sort of
Mm.
like
Mm.
that passion for creating stuff, for creating
Hmm.
content? Where do you think that sort of comes from in your in your past?
Um, it's a funny thing because like I never I never really wanted to be in the content creating space.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I it's funny because I feel like things just came to me like this business just came to me. Podcast just came to me. No. I think so. I was working. So I think the backstory of like my content creation was I actually started or when I started posting consistently was when I was working for a tech unicorn called Aircore, and I was a BDR sales rep
Yeah.
there. And I think with or in sales, I think one thing that's really like the power of LinkedIn is huge. And I think utilizing LinkedIn within your like, cadence, just to reach out to your prospects is actually such a big thing. And I think a lot of people, or a lot of sales reps are doing now. But at the time, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't really have a big LinkedIn presence. I didn't even know what to write or what to post. I think I just started, but I knew I was creative and I knew I could put something out there, and didn't matter if it didn't get any likes or maybe a little engagement. It didn't matter. I just had to post it. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of my team was doing that too. So we were encouraged. Actually, the company, what was really good was the company actually encouraged us to, build your own personal brand, not just for the,
Mm.
the company, but for yourself, so we can build more of a brand
Yeah.
presence. And I think we actually had a workshop happen with this social selling expert, Gunnar Habits, who I think works at Hootsuite. But yeah, he's great. And we basically had this like whole workshop with him, and that kind of really encouraged me to kind of go full force and post more consistently. And I just started posting random things about, company culture. Maybe it's like Friday lunch. I think I did a segment of like, hey, this is a Friday feature of like who really inspires me, something like that. But then I
Mm.
decided to take more of my personality and flair into it, and I just made a TikTok account for the company, and I was like, then I was the designated TikTok girl, just filming everyone. I'm sure people just hated me. I knew like my colleagues just hated me. So I'm like, can you be my TikTok? And they'll be like, oh no, Hannah. Um, yeah, and I just started posting like that, like those videos on my LinkedIn, and just
Yeah.
maybe some GIFs. I don't know, just like random, like just being more creative with my posts. And it's funny, it just turned out, it turned out really well, and I
Mm.
got a lot of, I guess, high engagement. And it was surprising. I wasn't actually expecting that a lot. And I guess, I wouldn't call myself a content creator, maybe, but I just loved creating content. And I think even for a bit, I didn't post as much, but I think I do really enjoy it still. So yeah, I think it's just about being really like authentic and just putting out, just be you, and just
Yeah.
post, what you want to post about. Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. Loads I want to sort of tap into there. You touched
Yeah.
upon. Um, yeah, because it was your when I think that's when I first sort of started noticing your stuff. I think on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, maybe a year or so back.
Hmm.
And I thought, yeah, there's some really great stuff in there. Um, I think you're completely right, especially if you work in sales. To
Yeah.
me, anyway, it's a no brainer that you start putting your own stuff out there and you do everything what you've just said. Put your personality in it, be authentic.
Yeah.
Share share your journey, etc., etc. What would you say? Because I think to someone like yourself, I think it does come quite naturally. You
Mm-hmm.
said you just picked it up quite well, and it's sort of just you were the designated person for the company just because you were quite good at it. And I think you were quite natural at it. I imagine.
Yeah.
I'm trying to crack this with maybe some of my team who aren't necessarily as comfortable, maybe putting themselves out there online, as maybe I am or you are.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to that person who's maybe not a natural, who
Mm.
doesn't like getting on the camera or being a little bit vulnerable online? What would you say to them?
Yeah, no, a great question. I think at first, I'm gonna be honest, it didn't come natural to me too. I did not want to
Okay.
be, on camera, like or film videos. One thing that helped me was that I know I did have a marketing background, so I was already, creating like social posts
Yeah.
for a previous company. So that kind of helped me get my creative, juices going. But I think what really so putting myself on camera or just doing, taking photos of myself or like, videos on TikTok, that was pushing me or putting me or I guess taking me outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
But the best advice I could really give is just, yeah, really being yourself, but also pushing yourself a little bit, because that's exactly what I did. And I think now I love it. I've created a lot of TikTok videos, and I didn't think like, yeah, I think one TikTok that I did was like a voiceover, like day in my life type of thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never do this. This is kind of cringe. But I was like, hey, you know what? I love creating. I love editing these videos. I love the creative stuff that I'm doing for this
Mm.
company. Hey, why don't I just try something different? So be yourself, but also just push yourself a little bit. And also, if you don't have any like content ideas, I think that's where I kind of struggled with too, like just pushing out content or just being consistent with content. Like every week,
Mm.
I think I put a goal for myself. Like every week, I have to post something. It could be anything. So it could be, a photo of my team, or maybe, I don't know, some different tools I use as a BDR. I think that was one post that I did. And I, what I would also say is that you could, get, help from your other teammates, like, basically bounce around ideas for content, because yeah, like you use your team, use people
Yeah.
around you that could help you. And also, we have the best tool right now, ChatGPT. Ask chat for like, any content ideas, and it doesn't have to be
Mm.
what what it puts out, but it's just some ideas that could take you, just take your mind like going.
Yeah.
Just because I think anyone can really be a content creator in a way, in a like, especially in a sales role, you just
Yeah.
post something. It doesn't have to be a long post, um yeah, it helps with the job also. I think I did it mostly, one, yeah, for my own brand, the company, but also to social sell. I think if you post stuff consistently, and then your prospects are seeing that, and then even if it's a no, maybe right now, later on they could remember you from that company.
Yeah.
That's what really helped me. I don't know if
Yeah.
that was good advice, but
No, it
or that
really
was a
is.
lot.
No, it is. It's the same for me. I started posting on LinkedIn for like kind of selfish reasons. Like I want to make my job easier. I want more inbound leads. I want,
Yeah,
I want to help my outreach become more warm because they might have seen my stuff online and all that kind of stuff. And then
yeah,
it evolved over time to be less of that. Like that stuff didn't keep coming in, but I actually just enjoy doing it, and
exactly.
which,
Yeah,
which helps. One thing you said about kind of like planning the ideas,
mm-hmm.
planning the content, bouncing ideas with the team. I think like it's actually people who want to get into it more and want to like do what we're sort of talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Probably they don't necessarily they struggle with like actually the systems and processes around doing it rather than actually doing it. It's like they might just suddenly think about, oh, I haven't actually posted anything this week, and they'll just try and like whip up like a post on the fly on on a Friday afternoon or something. I
Yeah,
like personally, I like plan all mine out. Like there's like block out time to do
yeah,
it, and I sort of every time I might like speak to someone on the phone that might give me an idea for something. I make a note of it. So I've got like systems and processes around
yeah,
doing what I post that help me. I think that's probably the main thing that people fall down on. Would you agree with that? What advice would
yeah.
you give someone?
I know, I definitely agree, because I'm actually the same too. I think before I would always I use like Google Calendar, right? So I would like use my calendar a lot, and I would always have a block of time. Hey, this is when I'm writing my LinkedIn post. This is when I'm posting my LinkedIn post. Or when I'm filming a TikTok, or when I'm posting it. So I would use like I guess scheduling to help me also, just to keep me on track. Um Also, when I ever had an idea in my head, I think I had a Notion, and I would just put in my ideas bucket, and this is so I had like different topics. I think that really helped me too. So I can just like pick one and be like, okay, this this week I'm going to write about this, or the next week I'm going to write about this. And I think you're so right. Like, having a schedule and have like just planning it out actually helps. But I think that's with everything too. So, if you can have some processes too, I guess, content creation, I think that really helps you get you like off the ground.
Yeah.
But I also think like one thing that I struggled with is before, like I was really consistent in posting, but then after I kind of stopped posting for a while, I think I was inconsistent. That kind of threw me off my game a little bit. So I think it's like easier to be, you know, like if you're consistent, it's easier to keep going with it. But then when you stop and then getting back into it, I find it a bit, hard or difficult. Well, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I think you've just got to like build it
Mm,
up. Like for someone to just like
mm,
start like if it's to go from like zero to like pumping up loads of stuff is almost impossible. You've got to build it up. Like so,
yeah.
like I post probably twice. I post twice a day on LinkedIn, but like
Mm, mm, mm.
I didn't, and so that's 10 a week. But like so to expect someone who's got no experience to go from that to that, like it's impossible. So you just got to build it up, right? Like maybe
Yeah, no,
start like
definitely.
one a week
Yeah,
for a month
start small. Yeah,
because
exactly. And you can,
it's just
yeah,
like a habit that just rolls, right?
exactly. It's like routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I meant you want to pick up on, you also said earlier, like
Hmm.
about especially like salespeople like leveraging their own like personal brands online to help with their job and grow the company. Something I've been thinking about recently is like say maybe a smaller business like a startup, kind of companies that I think you've been speaking to that have
Hmm.
been trying to grow their online presence, let's say. Um, do you think it's that your the best advice would be to like invest in the company's brand, like their company page and the content that they're producing, or would you advise developing the team's individual personal brand with the kind of company in the background? Because I personally think maybe that's the second option might be the better option to just for just sort of maybe just purely numbers, because I think that sort of I can't really, if I think about like LinkedIn and stuff, I think
Hmm.
which companies are doing really well. I don't really think of companies, I think of people.
Yeah, definitely. I
What do
think,
you think about it?
yeah, I definitely think that's the right way to go about it. I think companies now, I think, yeah, like I really think personally, people make the company. So you should invest in, I guess, the people's like I think the people should be, pushing out the content and just like being brand advocates for the company, and that will help the company grow. I've seen this from experience because when I was at Aircore, I, I think they were building up their presence. I mean, they already had a presence in Europe, but in APAC it was a bit less. So what I think me and a few other teammates did was we basically became the brand advocates, and everyone knew us as the Aircore people. And we were on everyone's LinkedIn, and we are. And then I guess the presence in APAC grew from that. Just it wasn't. It was. I was just posting on my LinkedIn account. It wasn't even the company's LinkedIn account. We didn't have like an Aircore like APAC, LinkedIn account. It was like the main one. But through I guess our LinkedIn posts and I guess engagement, everyone just knew, oh, Aircore's in APAC. So I seen that from experience. So yeah, definitely, having your people really be those brand advocates and just those content creators for the business really, really helps. And I think yeah, smaller business can really take that on too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great, by the way, what you said about earlier about Aircall,
Mm.
like encouraging you to do that. Um,
Yeah.
because you do hear stories about companies sort of restricting individuals like LinkedIn use and online use because I don't know, they can't necessarily police it as much, or they fear um, you know by putting yourself out there they might get approached by the companies. I think it's, I don't know, companies that
Yeah.
are encouraging individuals to do it are hopefully winning. I don't know.
Yeah, I would definitely agree too. But I mean, yeah, there's always got to be some like maybe like things you have to like I don't know branding guidelines or whatever. But I think in the beginning I made sure that like hey this is on brand, but I'm like I didn't get into those. I just kept posting.
Yeah, yeah, fair
I'm
enough.
like okay
Yeah, keep getting a pat on the back. Okay, cool. Like
yeah
I'll keep it. We've talked quite a bit about sort of
mm,
marketing, sales. You've got a
mm.
background in both. This might be a tricky question, but what do you sort of feel like you identify yourself as? Do you feel like there's a lot of crossover there as well? How do you sort of differentiate between the two?
Yeah. Well, marketing sales. Well, if you asked me a couple of months ago, I would have switched it up and I would have been like, one day I'm a marketer, one day I'm a seller, one day I
Yeah.
love sales, oh no, one day I love marketing. But I think now I would say I'm kind of both, I love being creative and I love to showcase ideas in a creative way. But I also love building relationships and, connecting with people. And I think I have quite, um, yeah, I think, marketing and sales are quite different, but they also come hand in hand, in my opinion. Having experience in marketing and sales actually really has helped me now. I think even, having my own, business, I think, you know, marketing and sales are really important to any business. And I think these are the key things that you need to have a successful business. Um, I think also, yeah, yeah, I don't know. I think definitely I would say both. I just feel like you're selling like every day also. Like for example, if you're running your own business, I'm like, one person. I need to pitch to people. I need to, prospect, right? I need to market my services, all of that stuff. But also when I'm interviewing for a role, for example, basically selling myself, or you could say my LinkedIn is my marketing portfolio.
Yeah.
So I would say like I'm a bit of both. I would love to do a role that, kind of has both aspects in it. I think that would be my ideal role. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's
Hmm.
good. I think you don't sort of pigeonhole yourself
No,
to
I
one.
don't want to. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because I think anyone who kind of says, I'm not a salesperson, I just purely work in marketing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, well, I don't know. Like, as you say, you alluded to a little bit there, like, life is kind of sales. I always say this, but like
Yeah,
everything you're doing, like you go to an interview for any kind of job, you're still selling yourself. You're trying
yeah,
to
exactly.
convince your mates to come out with you on the weekend. Like, you're selling to them, right? So
Yeah.
there's always going to be crossovers. And I think people who work in, um, if you work in a sales capacity, if you're your own sort of, this is where it clicked for me a little bit
Mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm.
few years ago. I work in sales, but like I started to see myself as a sort of mini marketer, like for myself.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think,
Yeah.
I don't know, if you just say if you're a salesperson, I'm not marketing, you might be, I don't know, you might be missing
Mm.
out on opportunities.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. Because like when I was working as like a BDR, like I was doing marketing on the side, doing, social posts, and that's in itself marketing. When I
Yeah.
was doing marketing ages ago, I was still, working on the sales side, connecting with people, you know, you know, listening to people. Like it really has some crossovers. I agree with. Yeah.
Your sales sort of career, the period you had with
Mm.
Aircall, you spoke about it a little bit. How do you sort of reflect on that time? It sounds like there was quite a few like good learnings and stuff. And yeah, how do you
Yeah.
look back on that little bit of time?
I would say it was a journey.
Yeah.
I think everyone who's done sales, especially a BDR role, oh my goodness, it's like a hustle. It's like a grind, really. I think
Mm.
I'm thinking that I'm still tired. No, but I really think I really appreciate my sales career because especially being a BDR, because you just learn so much in the business. You learn all the functions, of the go-to-market team. You work with so many different other teams, like maybe post sales, the marketing, for example. So yeah, you learn a lot through the role. And that like Aircall was a great company to work for. Worked there for almost 2 years, and it was great. I think what I really learned, I guess, from a sales role was, I think for me, it was really about like the skills that I adopted, more about I guess, the resilience, um, yeah, just like building resilience and handling rejection. I would say it was like the biggest things for me. Just because I think with resilience, like, especially doing all those cold calls, you really haven't like you shake it off straight after and it's like fine
Yeah.
after you kind of get like really it's like becomes like your job, it's routine basically doing cold calls, doing an outbound role. So I would really say, yeah, resilience and handling rejection, because after, I think if I didn't do a BDR role, like I think, after getting rejected from so many different, roles when interviewing, right? Of course, you're going to get
Mm.
rejected. Handling that, because I, did a BDR role, that it really helped me, to be honest, just
Yeah,
like, shake it off and like on to the next. That's
yeah.
really it. Yeah.
I always say it to people like who maybe come work for my team or anyone who's
Mm-mm.
getting into sales. Like the skills you learn in the job will help you in life. Down the track. The
Exactly. You would
resilience,
take it. Yeah.
yeah, they'll help you. Like you say, that for rejection you might have got for the interviews that you had down the track.
Exactly.
You mentioned you sort of quite quickly got to like learn to like brushed rejection off and move on. Was that like a process? Did that take a bit? Because I know personally for me it did. Like when I lost a deal or something,
Hmm.
had a really bad call. It took me a little bit of time to sort of
Oh,
deal
yeah.
with it, but over time I just sort of built it up and was able to brush it off. Is that something that took a bit of time with you?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you would be like a superhuman if it took only like a day,
Mm.
you know? But no, I think for me it was also a process. Especially having a lot of emotion, I it it's a bit disheartening at times, it's I think the hardest thing was like not trying not to take it personally, but you do take it personally. And I think for me, I took a lot of things personally, which I had to learn. I think in the end, like, hey, you're never gonna see this person again. It's on the phone. Like it's fine. But yeah, it did take a bit of time, and I've had, yeah, after like a bad call, or when I was at BDM, after I lost the deal, it sucked. Really, it did take a bit of time, but after that initial, of course, you got to have that like initial emotion and that feeling of like, damn, it hurts, but you just have to, I guess, yeah, it just takes a bit of time to like get over it, I think. Yeah, so it's definitely a process, but I'm sure all salespeople would say the same thing though.
No, no, 100%,
Yeah.
100%. You're on the cusp of
Hello.
launching your own podcast. We touched on a little bit at the start. You're in tech, I believe it's called. Um,
Yes.
what's the sort of the vision behind that, and how's it all going so far?
Yeah, so Paul You're in Tech is well, it was actually an idea when, like, actually in the beginning of the year, I was catching up with a friend who's also in tech sales, and we were just like talking, like real talk to each other, just about the good and like, the bad stuff of, being in tech sales. And it was just like a really real conversation. I was like, oh my gosh, this would be great in a podcast. That's
Yeah,
kind of how it came about. And I was like, you know what? I would really love to do this. And it took me a long time, it's now, December, but I had that idea from like maybe the beginning of the year. And I was just kind of, figuring out what I wanted to like it to be named, called, whatever, or what I wanted to really speak about or who I wanted to interview. And yeah, I just felt like, because I've been in tech for 5 years and I still love tech a lot, and I really wanted to see, I guess, or hear other people's stories and I guess point of views of, yeah, people in the industry and been, you know, how they've been going. So
yeah,
that's kind of how it started. And to be honest, like I struggled with the name a lot in the very beginning, like, and then I was on TikTok scrolling, and there was this like, trend that was happening, like pop, something, you're doing something. So that's kind of how it came about. Don't think I've shared that before, but yeah, it's
nice.
kind of like that. But yeah, that's kind of how, and it's been going. Well, I'm still starting. I'm still obviously
Yeah,
amateur at the moment. Like I said, I'm not like Joe Rogan. Like I am not. I don't even know sometimes how to talk. But I'm like, let me just do it because I really
yeah,
feel passionate about it. So I have filmed like 3 episodes, and we'll be putting them out really shortly, and doing more in the new year. So I'm really
cool.
excited. Yeah.
What is it about the tech industry, by the way? Because you've obviously worked in it. You've got this podcast now. What is it about
Yeah.
the industry that you love, that you sort of has made you stick around that sort of space and want to talk about it and want to share it?
Yeah, I think for me, like one, I love tech in general just because it's never boring. I think it's so fast paced that things are always changing. And I think I've always stand by that. Like I love how it's just every single day is going to be different.
Yeah,
But I think one thing that in my career that I found was culture for me was just really important. And the companies that I've worked for, well, some of the companies that I work for have really, really amazing culture, um, and more like family like, and just I don't know. I feel like because I working in like SaaS tech, it was that type of culture. It was like really friendly. Everyone's welcoming. I
Yeah.
don't know. I just love the culture a lot. So I think for me, that's why I always stayed. I think, just because culture and just also tech itself, I think, tech startups, I think I really have a passion for people who are trying to grow their business and just creating a
Yeah.
product and just kind of, building on that just because I've worked for a lot of tech
Yeah.
startups, and I still have a passion in that. So that's kind of how the idea came about. Yeah.
It makes sense. Like
Mm,
it seems to be an industry that attracts sort of high performing, ambitious people who
mm,
want to
mm,
grow
mm.
things and make things happen. So naturally, it does make sense that you want to be around that and be
Yeah.
part of it and learn from them, etc. So yeah, I think it completely makes sense. You talk about like the culture there. Um,
Mm,
you've obviously worked for a few startups and sounds like you've seen some really good culture. I'm always thinking about like what does make what it's a bit of a buzzword, right? The culture of a business
yeah.
successful or a good culture, but it is something. It is something tangible, and it can be a real make or break for people having success and enjoying their role.
Mm,
What
mm,
have you
mm,
seen
mm,
that like
exactly.
maybe from leaders within these startups that
Mm,
you've
yeah.
worked for? What have they done to create those exciting and good cultures that you've worked for?
Yeah, I think with culture, I think culture really starts with like the people, and people also meaning, yeah, the management, the leadership team. I think it comes from top down in a way at times, and I think what I've seen in the past is that, the good companies that I work for, the culture really stemmed from, yeah, the leadership team, where they really cared about our well-being. And I think nowadays, in companies, they're really focusing on mental health and like well-being. And I think just having that genuine care for that part, and just knowing that, like, hey, it's okay to take a break, or like, we're not gonna work you to your burnout. Of course, like in a sales role, it's a bit different being in a high pressure role. But yeah, like I think just that initial like transparency, and that, yeah, just being like more genuine and just caring about that well-being side, I felt that created the best culture. And like, yeah, you can have like, you know, um, lunches, or like, end of financial year events and all that stuff to bring people together, which is great. But like when I started Aircore, I actually started during lockdown. So I actually didn't meet any of my team. We were just all on Zoom all the time. I was like working from home, but I still felt the culture was amazing, just because I think everyone, like the people, were just like, um, just always willing to help, even though it was on a screen. But also, I think they've created a lot of events that made us feel like we're not alone. But that also, um, yeah, that also happened outside when we went outside of lockdown, and the culture kind of just continued. But I think it's
Yeah.
also different from like, I think a smaller team or a smaller company. But yeah, I mean, I've also been in companies where, they might have a toxic workplace, and I felt that it could be from leadership. But yeah, I don't really want to talk that much about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that I call it, I guess, like give a shit factor, right? So that
Yeah.
genuine, do they care about
Mm,
their employees? Like, do they actually care? I guess, it's quite easy to have maybe like a one on one with someone or whatever, and just kind of say, how's it all been going, blah 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 blah. But like to actually
mm,
have like someone in the team actually be like how are you? Like really, like how are you? Like
yeah.
those showing that you actually care about the people. That word you said, like being genuine about it, because it's quite easy to sort of not be genuine when you do that sort of thing. And good culture isn't necessarily just like you say, like throwing events
Yeah.
or whatever. Like that can help, but like it's if the employee like feels that the team care about them. To me, from what I've seen anyway, that tends to create these really good working cultures. So yeah, spot on.
Yeah.
And
No, definitely, definitely.
I've got a couple more questions to hit you with.
Hmm.
we've talked a little bit about the past, what you've been doing in your previous, careers and jobs and that kind of thing. We've talked a little bit about what you're doing at the moment. What about? I know this is not an easy one to answer. What about the future? What does that look for Hannah Young?
Well, no, that's a great question. I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow, but Um, no, I think for me, I would really love to be in. I mean, I have my freelance business now, but I still want to get more exposure from a company. Um, yeah, but also be in a role that I really, really enjoy. I think for me, that's really important to
Yeah.
do something that I really want. And I think with having this spirit of, doing my project, doing my own thing has been great because I actually really know what I want to do now or what role I want to get into. So I think that would be kind of like a future goal. I think, um, also I love to, I think this is more like near future goals, but really love to get into more of like or get better at the podcasting. I know I'm just starting out, but I'll love to see that grow a lot. And yeah, just keep building more content, I think, online. I think those are
Mm.
really, I think they're basic goals, but those, I would say those are my like future goals for now. Yeah.
Love it. And one final question for you. This is my typical closing question on the
Mm-hmm.
show. You can take this whichever way you like, personally,
Mm-hmm.
professionally, whatever way, in your life. It's around the idea of success.
Mm-hmm.
What does success mean to you?
Yeah. No, I love this question, really. To me, I think success probably looks a bit different now than it probably looked like, a couple of months ago or like
Yeah.
maybe a year ago. But because before it was probably like status or how much I make, right?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
like I worked for some awesome companies and that was, I learned a lot from them and I thought I was truly successful. I had my brand, I got like, I had high engagement, all that stuff. I thought I was pretty, or I felt really successful at that place. But then, when I was at a place where I didn't necessarily enjoy and it was for a short period, I think my mindset really shifted. So to me, now success really means fulfillment. So I don't really want to chase success as much, but I do want to chase fulfillment. So I believe for me, if I'm truly successful, in a role job, I'll be doing what is truly fulfilling to me.
So
I don't
less.
know if that's
No, no, it does. It makes sense. So it used to be kind of material success or,
yeah.
status based, what is traditional kind of things. But then it sounds like you've been on a bit of a journey and it's now more inner peace, inner fulfillment.
Yeah, more fulfillment. So success equals fulfillment to me.
What sort of changed in the mindset, by the way? Well, how did you sort of come to that?
Um, I just think like I think it's just because like sometimes it doesn't really look like or it doesn't look like how it seems. I think that's the right term. Just because I think when I was starting out my career and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be, I actually thought I was gonna be a marketer for my life. Then I went to sales. Then, I didn't have a job and I'm like, what is this? And I think when something or when adversity happened to me, I think for me that was kind of like the shift of like I need to redefine what success really means to me.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think that's kind of the shift or like the trigger of like, like, is this really what I believe success is to me? And it
yeah,
could, success to everyone is different, but to me, that's what I feel. Just because I felt like, when I said before, I felt like I was successful, but then it all kind of
yeah.
unraveled to me. I
Okay,
was
yeah.
just like, is this really success? So that's kind
Mm.
of how I changed it a bit. Yeah.
I think that's very normal, but a lot of people in their when they're kind of younger and in the early stage of their career, you kind of look back on that. When you look back
Mm,
on it, I thought I had it all figured out, and then you kind of get a bit older. Maybe that just comes with a bit of age and wisdom. You look back and you're like,
yeah.
oh yeah, I didn't have it all figured out. And I think the stage of the career and sort of by the sound of things, life you're at, it's you're not supposed to have it all figured out. You're
Yeah,
still you are everyone is right. Everyone is still figuring it out as
exactly. I'm
um,
still figuring it out. Yeah.
which is like absolutely fine because everyone
Mm,
else is no one has it no one has it all. Yeah, everyone's still sort of making it up as they go along. I believe anyway. So
Exactly.
anyone who
Yeah.
pretends that well, anyone who says that they do have it figured out is
You're
probably
lying.
lying. Yeah. Well, that's a good note to finish on. Hannah, thank
Yeah.
you very much for joining me on
Thank
the show.
you.
Really
No, this is
appreciate you
so
going
much
running
fun.
through all that. I know we touched upon a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
there, but yeah, hopefully someone will take a few peeps from what you've just said there and gain some value, because there was plenty in there that you shared. So thank you very much for that.
Of
I look
course.
forward
Yeah.
to staying tuned to what you're going to be getting up to,
Yes.
staying in touch with your podcast. I hope all the best with that, and thank you again for coming on my show, Hannah Young.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.